Tech. What brings you in so early this morning?
Well, Frank asked me to come in so I could fill you fellas in on some body service tips.
Glad to hear that, Tech. We've run into several tricky problems the past couple of weeks. We've done pretty well with them, but there are a few items that we can use your help on.
Be glad to give you any help I can. Oh, say, here comes Frank, looking as chipper as ever.
Greetings, Tech. Suppose you're set to give us a hand on this session.
Ready as I'll ever be, Frank. Let's get going. Art, what conditions have been giving you trouble?
Well, we've had some loose rear glass runs on Valiant four-door sedan and Suburban front windows. There's an example right there.
That's right, Tech. And when we got into the doors, we noticed the vent wing division bar and lower end of the glass run were out of adjustment and caused the glass to bind as it was raised and lowered.
Oh, it's probably that binding that caused the run to come loose. The fix we use on the Valiant would apply to Lancer models as well. Well, what's your first step, Frank?
Well, we removed the inside handles, Tech, using this removing tool to release the spring clips. Then we remove the trim panel and the rear glass run from the door. Art inspects the glass run channel to be sure there isn't any lubricant from the locks smeared on the channel that'll cause the run to slide in the channel.
I've found several channels where the lubricant had to be cleaned off with solvent to keep the runs from sliding up and down. If the original glass run isn't damaged, we clean it off and cement it back in the channel. If it's damaged by the corner of the glass, we install a new one. We cement the glass run in the channel using the two-coat method. Cement is applied to both the run and the channel for approximately 6 inches each way from the corner.
I hope you let the cement get tacky before you install the glass run.
Oh, I sure do, Tech. After the cement is thoroughly dry, I adjust the division channel so the glass will run up and down smoothly. Then tighten the lower attaching point.
Nothing I can add on that, fellas. The adjustment of the division bar and run channel is real important. If you get a Valiant two-door sedan with loose channels at the sliding quarter window, you'd correct the trouble in much the same manner. Same goes for Lancer two-door sedans.
Yeah, except that in that case, the glass run at the rear of the window is part of the division bar between the stationary quarter window and the sliding quarter window.
That's right, Frank. And the trouble would most likely be due to improper positioning of the channel track and the division bar.
Well, in that case, we'd have to remove the rear seat cushion, in addition to the quarter trim panel, to get to the channels.
That's right, Art. After you cement the glass runs in the channels, be sure you adjust the channel track at the lower end to eliminate all possibility of the glass binding in the channels. While you're at it, tell Art about the fix for loose remote control handles.
Glad you brought that up, Tech. The problem's caused by a shallow retaining clip groove in the handle shaft. Use a hacksaw to increase the depth of the groove about 3/64 of an inch so the clip will grip the shaft. And once in a while, you might find a shaft that's too long, so you'll have to file down the end so the clip will seat in the groove.
Be sure you rework the groove in the correct flat, Art, so that the handle will be in the correct position.
Yeah, that's right, Art. When correctly installed, the right-hand handle should point to the 11 o'clock position. The handle on the left side should point to the 1 o'clock position.
I'll keep that in mind, Frank. What next?
Well, let's discuss Valiant two-door hardtops. There's one over there that we've gone over. You seen? We make it a point on all new car pre-delivery inspections on these models to see that the sliding quarter windows operate free of any bind or erratic operation.
I'm glad to hear you say that, Frank. That way, you're not so likely to have to repair window operating mechanisms damaged by abnormal stresses such as glass binding in the channels. Occasionally, the glass binds in the lower part of the glass run, below the belt line. That causes the cemented pile fabric, which lines the run channel, to work loose and wedge in the channel.
When we find this condition, we remove the glass and division bar upper and lower channel. Then we line the lower portion of the channel with waterproof cloth tape to prevent window rattles resulting from loss of the pile fabric. Before we install the glass and channel, we examine the regulator for bent arms which might cause hard operation. If we find this condition, we replace the regulator. And in addition, we inspect the guide roller at the front of the lower glass frame to be sure it hasn't come apart. Actually, we haven't seen any loose rollers yet, Tech. But I'll give Art the information so he'll know how to handle it if he does get one.
That's a smart idea, Frank. Let's hear what you've got on this one.
Well, Tech, if any roller parts were lost, we'd have to install a new plate and roller assembly. And before installing it, however, we'd inspect the stud end of the pin and stake it, if necessary, to ensure a firm attachment for the spring clip. Next, we'd install the window and regulator in the quarter panel and align the window by adjusting the track and division bar. And after that, we'd adjust the upper and lower glass stops. We'd make a final test of the window operation before installing the trim panel.
Well, you're doing all right, Frank. But aren't additional adjustments sometimes necessary?
Yes, there are, Tech. There may be cases where it'll be necessary to make additional adjustments to get good sealing and proper window operation. These are explained in the reference book.
I'll be sure to study that, Frank. What's next?
Are you getting any reports of door glass in four-door sedans pulling out of the lower glass channel?
We get one now and then. Here's how we take care of it. After the old gasket has been cleaned out of the channel, we reinstall the glass using a heavier filler gasket. This heavier gasket puts more pressure on the glass. Then we adjust the glass run channel and division bar to make sure the glass doesn't bind when it's raised and lowered. Finally, we lubricate the glass runs with Sil Glide to help get smoother glass operation. You can use Sil Glide in either the tube or aerosol can.
That sounds good to me, Frank.
Tech, we've got an Imperial four-door hardtop over in the next stall that we'd like to talk about.
Good idea, Frank. But right now, if one of you men out there don't turn the record over, the rest of this film will be mighty silent. I'd like to get in a couple of words of wisdom, gentlemen, before we start on this Imperial. Fit the doors before you touch the glass adjustments. Pay particular attention to the fit of the window at the roof rail weather strip.
Yeah, I know what you're driving at, Tech. I've seen cars where the window frame fits inside the groove in the roof rail weather strip. Obviously, that's wrong.
You bet it is. Usually it's caused by glass stops that are set too low. When the window and stops are properly adjusted, the glass frame curls the outer lip of the weather strip inward, making a good seal at the top of the frame. The inner lip forms a second seal at the inside of the frame.
Good explanation, Tech. Now, suppose we run through the glass adjustments on this Imperial four-door hardtop. First, we've got to be sure the vent wing lines up with the windshield pillar and roof rail. To align the vent wing, loosen the two clamp screws on the front leg of the vent wing frame and the adjustable stud on the lower end of the division bar. In addition, the upper part of the vent frame can be tilted forward or backward by adding shims under the horizontal bracket on the bottom of the frame.
After you adjust the vent wing, run the window up to the top and check it for squareness in the opening.
I was just getting to that, Tech. If the window is out of square, loosen the regulator mounting screws and adjust the regulator until the window is square in its opening.
Never try to align windows by adjusting only the rear channels.
What is the setup on the rear edge of the window?
Well, the rear edge of the window is guided in a curved roller track channel. It has a slotted adjusting stud at the top and another at the bottom of the channel.
How do you go about adjusting the window in or out?
You've got to adjust the window to get a good fit at the belt line weather strip, as well as a good seal at the outer lip of the roof rail weather strip. With the window raised, you loosen the two vent wing frame clamp screws, the division bar lower adjusting stud lock nut, and the two rear channel adjusting stud lock nuts. Next, move the window out to get a good contact with the belt weather strip. At the same time, adjust the division bar lower stud to get a good seal between the window and the lip of the roof rail weather strip. Then, tighten the clamp screws and lock nut.
That sounds clear enough. How about the adjustment at the rear edge of the window, Frank?
Well, first you turn the rear channel upper and lower studs in or out to get a good contact at the belt line weather strip. Then, adjust the lower stud to get a good fit between the window and the roof rail weather strip.
And remember what Frank said earlier about adjusting the window stops.
I won't forget, Tech. Now, how about rear window adjustments?
The channel adjustment procedure on hardtop rear doors is the same as in other hardtop models. Frank will give you a few details now. You'll find the rest of them in your reference book.
What's the story, Frank?
Well, Art, in addition to providing an in and out channel adjustment, the channel stud holes in the inner panel are slotted to give you a fore and aft adjustment as well. First, you loosen the front channel upper stud lock nut. Then slide the stud fore or aft in the slot to get the proper alignment between the front and rear windows. Next, you loosen the lock nut on the upper stud of the rear channel. Adjust the two upper studs to get the correct window contact with the belt weather strip. Then you tighten the lock nuts. And finally, turn the lower studs on both channels in or out to move the window into alignment at the roof rail weather strip.
How about the rear quarter window on Imperial two-door hardtops?
Well, the rear quarter window, Art, is adjusted about the same way as the rear window on this four-door model. Why don't we cover the tailgate adjustments on that station wagon?
That's a good idea, Frank. Let's move over there.
Tailgates, like car doors, must be properly aligned, Art, before adjusting the glass. Enough adjustments are provided to get good alignment and sealing. There's quite a story on tailgates, so I'll just give you the highlights, Art, and you'll find the details in the reference book. The tailgate hinges and lateral adjustment procedure have been changed. To center the gate in its opening, loosen the jam nut on the left hinge pin several complete turns. Then, turn the hinge pin clockwise to move the gate to the right or counterclockwise to move it to the left as required. Tighten the jam nut to hold the adjustment.
Simple enough, Frank. But what about other tailgate adjustments?
To move the gate up or down, loosen the 3 hinge pivot plate mounting screws on each side. And be sure you loosen the striker plate screws. Otherwise, the striker plates will pull the gate back to its original position before the hinge plate screws can be tightened. You should have 1/8 of an inch clearance between the upper corners of the gate and the quarter panel at the belt line.
That spacing is mighty important to good sealing. Another thing, before you tighten the hinge plate screws, adjust the hinge plates to get a flush fit between the lower part of the gate and the quarter panels.
The striker plates should be adjusted so you have a flush fit with the quarter panels at the upper part of the tailgate. Adjust the striker plates far enough in to get a good seal.
But don't set them in too far or the gate'll bounce without latching.
That's a good point, Tech. Now, the glass adjustment is the same as in the past. But you'll notice that late models no longer have glass with the bonded chrome molding. As a result, narrower channels are used with the new glass. You can tell the new narrower channel by the additional extruded section at the belt line, where the upper channel meets the lower weather strip at the tailgate opening.
Is it possible to install the wrong channel, Frank?
Yes, it is. So make sure when you install this new glass that you use the new narrow channel. Otherwise, the glass will rattle and leak.
The reference book has a lot more information on servicing the tailgate glass regulator and locks. Now, let's move over to that valiant. I'd like to know what you fellas are doing about hood lock adjustments. As a starter, what about the safety latch on the hood lock?
You can't trip us up on that one, Tech. We inspect the hood safety latch, lock mechanisms, and hood fit of all cars during the new car pre-delivery inspection.
That's right, Tech. We test hood alignment by opening it to make sure the hood moves straight up to the safety latch position without springing to one side. If it does move to one side, we adjust the hood at the hinges to center the striker bolt in the lock plate access hole.
Well, I'm glad you don't try to align the hood by bending the striker bolt.
We never do that. We do move the striker mounting plate rearward to ensure full engagement of the safety latch hook in the catch bracket. We check to make sure the striker bolt is still centered in the access hole and that the safety hook lines up with the catch bracket.
What if they don't line up?
If either the bolt or the safety catch doesn't line up, the striker mounting plate is probably bent and must be replaced. To wrap the job up, we make sure that striker bolt length is adjusted so that you don't have to slam the hood to close it. Now, is there anything you want to add to that, Tech?
Nope. I think you fellas have the whole business of adjustments pretty well in hand. And here's something for every technician to think about. Being able to keep customers satisfied by making a few adjustments sure helps keep the dealership's income in proper alignment.